It's going to be living the electric dream, kids. Okay. It's a follow-on from my other chat that I had with regard to the electric car and whatnot. Basically, the whatnot. Basically, as you've got there, we've got the old PV units, we've got the wind, and we've got the electric cars. I was hoping David would be here so that I could have a good go about the old...
he was stuck on a train last night.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, bugger.
What, 14 days?
Oh, dear. So this is what we got. This is a generalisation. It might be a little bit contentious, what I'm going to say, so bear with me. What we've got wasn't now. We've got them dirty vehicles, them dirty diesels and stuff, dirty power. We've also got now clean vehicles and clean power. All the renewables are much lower cost than you'll find in the traditional power stations, coal in particular. Just to give it a flavour of where we are in terms of input of generation, this is what the UK generation is looking like. In 2009, you got a big 45% was going to be your gas. You got a big coal there. You got 32% in coal. You can see in 2020 where it's reduced. And what's happened is renewables have grown exponentially. Really, you've got a 31% increase there. So as we look into the world situation, this is where we are. Currently, if you look at 2012, you've only got a very small amount of renewables and a very small amount of PV. But as you go into 2018 and then into much further forward to 2040, you can see that you'll have a much reduced coal input worldwide. This is including China, Poland, whatever. You'll have a much reduced area of sort of the traditional old-fashioned stuff. What you will have, you'll have a big growth in the solar, you'll have a big growth in wind, and you'll have a big growth in other renewables. So you can see it's gone green, if you like, on the that particular area.
Where do these figures come from, Reg?
They're coming from...
renewable energy source.
Pardon? They're not fiddles, honestly. I've had to do a little bit of research, and they are correct. Well, they are. I wish you hadn't have asked that because I can't remember. They are correct, yeah. Okay, so the world. This is a world view, if you like. What people think is on the left-hand side there, and you can see the big support is for solar. Big support for wind. Hydroelectric, natural gas comes a little bit further down, but you've got coal and nuclear sliding off. They're going to be much reduced. What you'll find is it's going to be a more of a collaborative power grid to what we've got currently. You'll have the solar panels, you'll have your plug-in electric vehicles. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but in actual fact, what you're riding around in an electric car is the transportable battery. So you'll get to the end of the day, you'll stuff it into the old it won't charge up. It will take the energy from the car and stuff it into your battery that you've got in your home. So you'll have energy storage systems, battery storage systems of all sorts, whether they be large or small. And you'll also have the micro wind turbine, i.e. you don't have to have a blooming great big turbine to make things work in terms of wind energy. You could have a smaller one. It could be for your own use in your own place, or it could be for a small village or whatever. You can have a village separate if you wanted to. And it might be the way that things are going to go.
Right. How long do you think it would be before people could be basically self-sufficient?
Not very long. This is what I've put on our roof last October. So we've got the PV units. We've also got the battery that you can see there. So we've got a battery which is 6.5 kilowatt. So it takes the energy off the roof, stuffs it into the battery, and then we take that during the afternoon, evening, as it were. I'm looking at the wind turbine, but at the moment, the regulations are for wind turbines in Rugby are a little bit prohibitive. So we'll see about that one. But what it means is the worry that a lot of people have got with electric car is it's all very well and good, but the grid's going to melt if we all go over to it. In actual fact, that's not true at all, because we've got things in place currently. But what it means is, as individuals, if the next car that you bought was an electric car, and you just plugged in, and you had a low cost energy thing, say 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, which is being offered by companies like Octopus, you could actually generate your energy in the battery in the car for round about 5p per kilowatt hour. Now currently, approximately daytime, it's about 15 pence per kilowatt hour. So you can see there's some advantages there. Even if you haven't got PV on the roof, you can still take an advantage. The advantage of the PV on the roof and the solar power and the solar battery is simply I can run my car for bugger all. Seems like a good idea to me. And that's the way it's going to go for lots and lots of people. It wouldn't surprise me if we see something in the budget to encourage you to do that, because it would be the way that they could actually get low cost energy for people, and it would mean that people can swap over to the electric car and get a benefit for the planet, obviously, but a benefit for yourself as well.
So how's the battery technology changing? Because batteries aren't very eco to make and dispose of.
Basically, a lot of people think that, but with your current motor cars that you've got, the electric motor, they'll take the batteries out of the, my Renault for instance, they've tied up with a British battery company, and they know for a fact that they can take those batteries out and put them into the home battery, which you'll have in the garage. To dispose of any batteries is always awkward, because there are parts in there that are, if you like, bad for the planet. But we're going to have that anyway. You've got a choice, really. I mean, if you have nuclear power, let me just go on to the old nuclear power thing. Nuclear power plants, they were expected to be the thing. They were expected to be the way that we would go forward. But as you can see now, it's going to take 124 billion to 131 billion to decommission our power plants. There's 17 of them. 227 Queen Elizabeth hospitals. I know which one I'd rather have. I think I'd rather have the Queen Elizabeth hospitals myself. So I think nuclear, as far as I'm concerned, this is a personal view, I think nuclear is a dead duck. I think the way we should be going towards the things that are easier to deal with, i.e. the wind, PV, that sort of stuff.
What's the payback on PV?
It takes a little time. My payback is probably, to completely cover the cost, is probably about 4.5 years. The interesting thing about this is, on Sunday, I looked at my figures. I've got it on my app here, and on Sunday I completely covered all my electricity from the roof. Now, we've only had it in since October, so I haven't really got a feeling for it, you know. But that's the way I feel that we're going to go.
With the cars,
Yeah.
one of the biggest questions would be distance
Yes.
you can travel. Can you ever see a time where they'll be made of something that actually makes them almost self-generating?
Yes. There's a motor that's being produced at the moment. I'm just desperately trying to remember the name of the company, can't think of it. It's a Dutch company. They were in the challenge in Australia, the solar challenge, where they had to build a car that would actually travel across Australia under its own power. The technology that they've got for that, they've put into another vehicle. Now that created a lot of interest, and there's a vehicle that's coming out later on this year that just runs on solar power. It's really very clever indeed. And you could park it up outside and it'll be charging up. Now,
Even in the UK?
pardon?
Even in the UK?
Yeah, it's going to
If
be.
you're talking about Australia,
If you're talking about California, you wouldn't have a problem, would you?
You can do
No.
2,000 miles on a summer's day, but on a winter's day you can't get past the door.
No.
Under the street and that's it.
I mean, Tesla are talking about a 1 million mile battery. Don't ask me how it's going to be made, how it's going to be done. They've got their own plant now that they produce their own batteries from. So they've moved away from other people supplying them, and they're going to do their own.
Well, what's the life of a battery?
Life of my battery now is I've got 65,000 miles in that clock. Touch wood, it's as right as rain. They give you, on the Renault in particular, they give you a guarantee it will cover 100,000 miles or 8 years. I've done a lot of miles in my motor, it never stops moving. But it's like having a diesel, the sort of reliability of a diesel, but it's electric power. It's different. It is, your point is a good point. Currently, the motors, probably they range from about 180 miles to a charge to about, well, with a Tesla, it's 500 and something now.
Well, 500, I think most people would live with. 'Cause
Of course they would,
that's the
yeah.
best you're going to get out of the
Absolutely,
tank, really.
absolutely, yeah.
With 500.
My bladder range is about 80 miles.
Don't think you needed to add that.
Oh, is that too much information? Oh, okay, okay. Well, that
What about the charging time? Is that decreasing?
it is, yeah, decreasing. What's happening is, as you get with most developments in new technology, they've moved away, or they're starting to move away from AC, and they're starting to move to DC, where you've got a much bigger amount of energy going into the car, and it can be done much quicker. Currently, it's about my car takes about 35 minutes to go from where we are to 80%, and that's enough for me to get going again and take it on board. The last little bit is very, very slow when they put it goes in very, very slow. The last 10 minutes, it's just very, very steady. But yes,
If the government's saying everybody's got to go electric,
yeah,
what are they doing about the infrastructure for charging?
very
cars?
good question. Very good question. It's poor at the moment, I would say.
But they're saying we've all got to get rid of
Absolutely.
But they're
Well,
not putting
Coventry are installing electric chargers all over the place. Every side road in Coventry has got electric chargers put in place. Yeah, what they reckon is those people with drivers and garages will have their own electric charger installed, but for those people who are living in terrace areas and stuff, and they've got them all
Yeah, but if you drive,
in the streets.
if you drive, like Roger, if he goes to Reading or I go to Reading for a meeting, I need to know that there's somewhere, not somebody's drive or
Yeah, I know.
garage.
You do. Well, you can park on people's drive. There's no, they can't do
They
anything
don't
about
mind.
it.
Just knock on the door and say,
So
can
yeah,
you plug in?
just plug that in. We'll pay you for the
Here's a
electric.
cupcake.
Well, she'll know. She's seen my bills. When I yeah,
She's seen your what?
my bills.
The pay would be again.
When I charge, was it about £3? They reckon if you look at the price of petrol, well, currently it's dropped, but I mean,
It is, yeah.
if you look at the rough translation between petrol and electric, it's something like 4p a mile on the electric, whereas it's something like 14p a mile for your normal traditional engine, your old-fashioned
I've read
engine.
somewhere that the fans on the wind turbines are not recyclable. They have to go into landfill. What's the point of that?
They're made of fiberglass, a lot of them.
So you can't recycle them, so what do you do?
Probably right.
It's not heating up the atmosphere and it's cutting back on global warming. It's the same with the battery development. Sure enough, they're digging really nasty holes in the ground, but it's stopping the atmosphere warming up and cutting down on global warming. And we all want power, we all want to do stuff.
Yeah.
That's right.
You've got to do.
We've got to make a start. If we carry on as we're going, we're going to have a dying planet. There's no doubt about
I'll be
that.
dead before then.
Pardon?
I'll be dead before then.
Yeah, well, you don't know, mate. You don't know.
I don't care.
People up in, if you told people up in Yorkshire we're going to do bugger all about the climate, they wouldn't be very happy, I don't think, because they don't want all that rain again. Thanks all the same. I've never seen so much water on the fields as you go up there. It really is wet, and I think that's what's going to happen more and more and more if we don't do something about it. The only way we're going to do it is to do something ourselves, because the bigger powers that be are very slow. It's a very slow thing that works in government. They can pull all the big levers, but it does take a time to make things happen. And with these sorts of things, having an electric car is quite a big step for lots of people. I understand that, and it's quite different. But it's getting better. because every new car that comes out there, they're getting that little bit better. They're a little bit quicker at charging. They're a little bit longer to go. And so you'll find it'll be a normal. The price of a Mini now, electric Mini, as opposed to the ordinary Mini, is actually cheaper. So the prices are starting to drop a little bit. You get companies like Volkswagen in the business, which they are now, and they'll push their products. I mean, they'll push them hard. And you'll have a situation where the prices for a new vehicle, new electric vehicle, will start to become in parity, and if not a little bit below. And that's when it will change over much faster. This business of 2035, when they wrap up making the old-fashioned cars, the electric will then grow dramatically, obviously. But I think it'll be growing a lot more before then, because people can see the advantages of actually having a low-cost vehicle to drive around in.
But surely the problem's going to be that not everybody buys new cars. Vast majority buy second-hand cars.
Correct.
So until second-hand electric cars come on the market,
Yeah.
people won't be able to afford to buy electric cars.
No.
And then by the time electric cars come on the market, the chances are, they've reached the end of their warranty or whatever for the battery. So people need a new battery. And new batteries in these vehicles cost an arm and a leg anyway.
They used to cost an awful lot of money. The interesting part is, with my Renault, I pay currently I pay £99 a month because I do a lot of miles, and that covers my battery for any sort of problem. If it goes bang anywhere in the UK, they will put me on a trailer and trailer me home, and
Electric trailer.
yeah, and we get a new battery. So that's covered automatically. Now Renault are so, well, confident, I suppose is the word, in their kit, that they don't offer that now, because they know for a fact it's going to last for 8 years or 100,000 miles at least. They've got
warranty.
Pardon?
Do you get that as part of the warranty?
Yes, you do. Yeah, you get that as part of the warranty. So when you buy a car, I mean, what's the current warranty for a petrol car?
5 to 7 years.
Yeah, the
5 to 7.
key
What sort of
is a
mileage?
7.
100,000 again. Yeah. So it's the same then in terms of mileage. Yeah. So that's the way it's going to go. I know it's quite a change. When I go out now, well, I haven't got the car now because Annie's got it. So I want to lift home some of it. The reason is because we're going to have another electric car, and we've gone for a second-hand. Yeah. The second-hand market's there. It's coming along. There's motors there that, I mean, my motor's only worth about £4,500 now. It's done a few miles. But for somebody who's only going to go to London, a short journey into London or whatever, if they're only going to do 50 miles a day, perfect. You've got no problem at all. And there will be people like that, commuters, who will only travel, I don't know. How many miles do you travel in a day?
About 30.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's,
You'll charge probably once every couple of days. And if you charge early in the morning, it's only costing you 5p a kilowatt hour. So you can see the way it could go. It could go that quite quickly if people saw the advantage in cost. The big advantage, obviously, there's no coming out any tailpipe. So obviously, we're not going to have the horrible particulates that we've got currently floating about in the air. The planet will become much cleaner, much quicker, and you'll find that we shouldn't have the sort of extremes that we're getting at the moment with regard to rain and heat and whatnot. We won't have London covered in water.
There is a downside.
So that's an upside, isn't it?
What about a commercial vehicle?
Commercial-
Where weight, you've got to carry so much.
Yeah.
Does electric
Yeah,
do that?
it does. Mercedes-Benz.
Mr. Tesla, when his van blew up.
That Tesla motor, that Tesla lorry, it's a fantastic vehicle for mileage.
No, I was thinking more of towing a caravan, really.
Yeah, they've got vehicles out there. They've got can't remember the name, but they've got a vehicle in the States that will pull a tremendous amount of weight.
Well, caravans in America, they're massive.
They are, aren't they? They really are, aren't they? So yes is the answer to your question.
They use a pickup truck.
Yeah. I mean, we fell in love, apparently, in this country with the great big motor. You know, there's been more of those taken than anything else in the last, say, 3 or 4 years. And that's the trend that they're trying to get a hold of that market, if you like, in terms of electric. And they'll crack that. And once they do, it'll be, you know, it'll really go places.
Do we hit it later?
Is there any more questions?
Where's the tax? All the tax that goes on diesel, how's the government recouping that?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Currently, I don't pay any road tax.
Yeah.
None of the electric cars do. I can see that changing.
Yeah.
They've got to.
When all cars are electric, it's got to change that.
It's got to
Every
change.
car on the road will be
Yeah,
electric.
yeah. It's got to change. I mean, we're going to see some dramatic development in that side of things on the charging side, because you're quite right what you're saying. The infrastructure is not really there. It's there for if you've got a Tesla and you drive into any motorway services. There's a dozen of them, whereas you've only got 2 of the current
Well,
ones.
that's what Mark Horsey said when he came to talk to us. He said that the new service station being built on the M6 outside by Rugby, I think he said there's only 2?
3.
3, thank you. 3 plug-in.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not
But
enough.
They haven't built it yet, so
No.
they have the opportunity.
Opportunity,
to put
yeah.
more.
Why can't we build houses with the chargers already in? Why can't we build houses with the solar panels on? You know, that seems like the logical. They might put something in the budget over that, I don't know. You know, but the logical thing to me seems to be charging stations on your home, you know, charging apparatus on the home, built, PV unit built, and a battery in the garage built already in.
And
The
broadband.
difficulty is when you've got people who live in places like Murray Road and Railway Terrace, when you can't park outside your own house.
Yes.
How then do you deal with
That's a conundrum, because currently you can have a charging post, if you like. You can have a charging apparatus in the light, if there's a light outside your house or whatever. On the street you can charge, but as you quite rightly say, if you can't park outside your house, you're snookered. So it's up to us.
What about MOTs?
What about
Still
them?
a 3-year MOT?
Pardon?
Is it still the same MOT on electric cars?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
electric cars?
Yeah.
Except they don't test emissions.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, when you go to have your car serviced, there's no oil, there's no exhaust pipe, there's no gearbox. What do? They just top up the washer bottle.
It's
Charge the same.
it's
Charge
still
are very
the
similar.
same, yeah.
Charge it 75 quid. Well, we'll plug it into the diagnostics. Yeah, smashing. What's that going to do then? Well, I'm not quite sure, but you'll have the latest software. Well, you can see they're going to make some money somewhere, but they reckon that's why they're currently charging more for an electric car than they are for a petrol or diesel, because there's very little that they're getting back as service costs, because there's not as many moving parts in an electric car as there is in a petrol or diesel car. The current petrol or diesel car, I believe, is something like 40% efficient, and that's a good one. Electric car, it's something like about 80%. So there's quite a lot of difference in the two.
The reason I ask is I can see the government making a charge on mileage, and when you get your MOT, they record the mileage and you get charged on the mileage,
Mhm.
and then on the mileage charge, because they won't have a road fund tax, so there won't be petrol tax.
No.
So they'll just charge on the mileage you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can see that happening, can't you?
I can see that happening.
Yeah, yeah.
It's what
Interesting.
I would do if I was chancellor.
There's your next job, mate.
You know, yeah. Those who use the roads more, do lots of mileage, like Roger, and pay more tax.
Yeah. Win-win. So, is there any more questions?
I'll just say I've got a customer who's got a Tesla and he thinks it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I drove one the other day. I couldn't get my breath.
And he charges his customers for mileage.
Absolutely
So
fan.
it's-
Pardon, I missed that.
He charges his customers for mileage as well. So
Well, he's quids in.
yeah.
There are a few downsides to the Tesla. That screen that they've got, if that goes down,
Oh, right.
it's £5,000 worth. £5,000.
That's part of the warranty then.
Can't be, can it? Anyway, you're going to get that in all sorts of motors, aren't you? All sorts of things like that. I'm conscious of the fact I'm waffling on now. So,
Lots of questions. We've had lots of questions, which have been good.
yeah, it's an interesting topic. Yeah, it
How
really
did
is.
you go on with the roof, the solar panel?
That's blooming clever. That is. It's got.
And the storage unit. You got, was that one deal? The roof panels and the electric storage battery
Yes.
in the garage. That was one deal, was it? One company.
Yeah, there's lots of companies out there that do it, but this particular company came from Doncaster. They're called iVolts. I'd seen them at the Fully Charged show at Silverstone in the year before, and I'd gone round all that lot and had a good look at stuff, and I'd done some homework on it, and they came out one of the best, you know, in terms of
How long did it take?
customer set. How long would you think to fit 16 panels, an inverter, battery?
2 days.
2 days? 1 day. In and out, mate. It was a Friday, I wanted to get up the pub. Yeah.
I'll check for sure it worked.
Yeah, because that's what I said to him. I said, don't rush it. You know, just let's have it right.
How much do you think it's going to save you on your electric bill?
Long term, it'll be interesting to see, but if I don't run my car, I don't bloody know, do I? That's why I'm
What
waffling.
was your estimated time then before the initial outlay to drawing even, say, 3-4 years?
Yeah, I would have said so.
About three,
Yeah.
3.5
And if they do what they say they're going to do and stick up the electric again, it'll be shorter.
Again.
The German companies who are supporting the network, who are the EDFs of this world, have been rubbing their hands with glee, obviously. But if you do the thing where you got the PV on the roof and you got a battery in the garage, the supply I'm getting is very minimal. In fact, I've exported on Sunday. I was charging, generating, and exporting. I don't get paid for the exporting yet, but I will do.
Yeah, but it is attached to the national grid.
Yes,
So if you have abundance, a surplus energy,
Yes.
it goes back in and it's...
yes,
Do you get credit for that?
you do. I haven't got it yet. I haven't got me.
The bills are interesting when they come.
Pardon?
The electric bills when they come are quite interesting to see. We've got a client that does a lot of feeding into the
Right.
tariff, and the electric bills are, for us to try and work out exactly the right amount to put through the books is quite interesting, and the right
It is.
amount of that.
Yeah, it is.
We'll have to do this
What
talk
they
again in
use and what
November.
they-
Once we've had sun,
Yeah.
we've had some sunshine
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
how much feedback we got in.
Yeah, I will. That tariff, it's not a feed-in tariff. It is a feedback tariff thing, and that all the large producers will get into it. It's just started in January, so it's taken up the fit.
Somebody's coughing.
Ah. Shall we pack up now? So it's up to us, kids. It's up to us. We either have a dying planet or a living planet. We can do something
Thank you,
about it.
Roger.